Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Real Talk with DMJ. Well, today we have a person with us that's very important to our community, our own district attorney, Chad Enright. I want to tell you, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yes, you know, I am so excited of having you on the show today because so many people that I work with are trying to get a second chance in life and trying to how to figure out to get out of those barriers and those ruts that they're stuck in. And then, you know, for so many years we have heard, you know, the police is bad, the judges are bad, the district attorney is bad. One thing they don't seem to understand that this is just a job. This is not something that you take home. You know, this is not your whole personality. It's just a job and a job description. Another thing I want to go ahead and cover and talk about vacating criminal records. But first, I'd like you to share about your job and what your job is so that people can understand you.
Well, so a county prosecutor's office, we do really three things. First thing we do is we have a family support division, which means that we enforce child support obligations. And that's one of those things that when you think about a prosecutor's office, you don't really think about that. But we have attorneys and staff that are just dedicated to working on child support. The second thing we do is we provide legal advice to all the county departments. So we have, it's called our civil division. And so we have attorneys who work for the Board of Commissioners, the treasurer, the auditor, the jail, county public works, and we treat that like it's almost like it's a private law firm where we keep track of our hours and we will bill at the end of the year. We'll tell the treasurer, hey, we worked so many hours on your issues and your cases, and here's how much that would have cost. The thing that people are most interested in is criminal prosecution.
Yes.
And that's the big thing of what we do. And so the Kitsap County Prosecutor's Office will prosecute all crimes in Kitsap County except misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors in the city of Bremerton. So the city of Bremerton has their own city attorney's office that does that, but we do all juvenile crimes, we do all felonies across the county, and we do all misdemeanors and gross misdemeanors that are anywhere but within the city of Bremerton.
Something just came to my mind. I had got a call from one of my brothers and another client of mine saying that a new law had came back, and if you had a felony, a drug charge or delivery or something, that they were getting that money back. That just came to my mind. Can you clarify that and let's expound on that?
I can. So a few years ago, there was a case, State of Washington versus Blake. And it was a case that came out of Spokane County. And there was a woman there who was charged with possession of a controlled substance, charged with possession of drugs. And she said, they were in my pants, they were in my pocket, I didn't know they were there.
Okay.
And so she went to trial, and she was found guilty. And she appealed that. And the Washington State Supreme Court said the drug possession statute was unconstitutional because a jury could convict somebody who maybe didn't know that the drugs were there. And so what happened was 40 years of drug possession cases got overturned.
Oh.
Anyone convicted of drug possession, not delivery, not manufacturing, but just drug possession in the state of Washington for the last 40 years, those convictions need to be taken off their record. So what we did... That's
a lot of work there.
It is a lot of work. And so the first thing we did was we went to see who's in jail right now and who's in prison right now.
Yes.
Because we got to get them out. And so we immediately got those people out as soon as we could. The second thing that we had to do was we had to resentence hundreds, if not thousands of people. Because the way sentences work in the state of Washington is there's a sentencing range that's set by the legislature based upon how many prior convictions you have. So if you had 5 prior convictions, you were looking at serving a certain amount of time in prison.
Yes.
Well, that drug possession shouldn't count anymore. So if you had 5, you now have 4. So we need to bring you back into court and resentence you with 4 points to a lower sentencing range. So we did hundreds of those. What we still have left is thousands of cases that need to be vacated. And every day we have a deputy prosecutor that he goes through cases, and he's started decades ago, and he's working his way up, going through, finding anyone who's convicted of drug possession, filling out the paperwork, going into court, getting that taken off of people's records. Sometimes we do it, people don't even know that we're doing it.
Yes, I've heard that.
And
they said it's off. Yes, they've called me.
Right. And so I've gotten phone calls from people who say, hey, I need to do something about this case. I got convicted in 1997 of drug possession, and I think I'm eligible to have it vacated. And I'll look them up and I'll say, I got good news for you. You are eligible to have it vacated, and I already did it. It's
yes.
done. So once you get that conviction vacated, because the state Supreme Court said the law was unconstitutional, if you paid your fines, you're entitled to get that money back. And so the state of Washington is setting up a refund bureau so that we can refund those fines that people paid related to their drug possession convictions. And so that is, we are working on that every single day.
So now, from what I'm hearing from you, you have one person trying to work on that right now. When you had all those manpower hours, did the state refund or paying you?
Nope. No, so
that's a big cost there.
It is
for the county.
It has been a huge cost. And to be honest with you, there is an attorney shortage in the state of Washington right now. Our Office of Public Defense is short attorneys. Prosecutor's office, we're short attorneys. We're about a third short of where we should be if we were fully staffed. So we're down attorneys, and that's a lot of work to go back into the past and undo all of these cases. But we need to do it.
Yes.
And so Todd Dowell, who has been with our office for 30 years, he is the expert on juvenile law in the state of Washington.
Oh, yeah.
He's taken on that responsibility, and every day he goes through old cases, fills out the paperwork.
Oh, well, I'm really glad to hear that, and I'm glad that I did remember to bring that up, and you got to share with our viewers, because that is very important. The other thing that I really wanted to bring up, misdemeanors. I found out since I've been helping individuals to vacate their criminal records, and it seemed like you can get as many felonies off your record in a lifetime, except those that the governor has to handle. DUIs, murder, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But my thing is that I think what's a shackle for our people and still handcuffs them from moving forward is all those misdemeanors. You only can get a misdemeanor, as I know in the state of Washington, one off your record in a lifetime. For example, I used myself.
Yeah.
I tried it 7 times to get a second one off through Judge Doctor, the DA. I'm not going to call her name. I love her to death. That's my girl. But he goes, every time you come to my courtroom, this is your 7th time, the last time you said it to me. And they always approve it.
Yeah.
I always have to bring up the law that you only can get one off in a lifetime. And I wonder, why is that? You can get as many felonies off, but only one misdemeanor.
Yeah.
And I have young men that can go to work in the shipyard, but it's all these misdemeanors that's a barrier that's holding them back. So my thing, what can we do about that, and how do we get that changed?
That's something that would have to be changed through the legislature. But I understand where you're coming from, which is this doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and especially here with the shipyard.
Yes.
You have people, you have an opportunity to get a great job, to get a career.
Yes.
And this is one of those barriers that people are facing in order to be able to move on with their life. And that's one of those things that as prosecutors over the last decade or so, we're becoming more and more conscious of those unintended consequences of a criminal conviction. One of the unintended consequences of a misdemeanor conviction, especially in our community, is you're not going to be able to get a job at the shipyard.
Correct.
So being able to go in, being able to vacate a lot of those convictions for people that have turned their lives around, who haven't been in trouble for years, who are out in the community, are out helping people, is important. But that is something that the legislature would have to change. And to go back kind of where we started in this conversation, as prosecutors, sometimes we see something and we go, okay, I know what the right answer is here, but I got to follow the law.
Yes.
And I would love to be able to vacate this conviction. I would love to be able to vacate that conviction. I think you're a good person. I think you're doing the right thing. It's time for us to move on, but I can't, because I got to follow the law. And that's the legislative branch. They got to make a change to that law.
So in other words, we need to go ahead and speak more with our legislators. Yes, definitely. Some of my clients always ask, unknown classification. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I had an unknown classification on my record, and I wasn't able to get a job with that. I wasn't able to get a contract with the state. So we went back, and that's when we were under the Honorable District Attorney Russ.
Russ Hauge, yeah.
Yes, and went back, and then he went ahead and fixed that because it was assault charge with Officer Terry Wellens, very good friend of mine, and so was able to put that to a simple assault. But when I went for a job with the state at that time, they couldn't give me the job because the unknown classification, that was just like worse than murder. And I was wondering, where does that unknown classification come at? And how does that get on your record? And why would they put that on there? Because it's even in Spokane Court, I've done unknown classification cases up there, all the way to Portland. And having that unknown classification, that seems like everyone's baffled. Where does that charge come from?
Well, every charge should be classified. I mean, there's a category for every felony case, and so I think it's probably a records keeping issue with probably the State Patrol that keeps all of the criminal history records, and so they'll pull up a conviction, assault in the third degree, unclassified. Well, I know what that classification is. I know that's a Class C felony. I know what level felony it is. I know that it's a crime against persons. And so that's something that if somebody has that on their record, that something is unclassified, we can work with the State Patrol. We can work with David Lewis, who's our county clerk.
Yes, good friend of mine.
David and his office are great in being able to, because they're the record keeper.
Yes.
And they can go to the State Patrol and say, look, your records say this is unclassified. We know what classification this is. So if anybody's having trouble with that, they could probably either contact the Office of Public Defense, or you can contact us, the prosecutor's office, and we're happy to help with that.
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm glad to know that because I had such a hard time, but I went to Russ and he took care of me. And so I've been able to flourish ever since. Praise God. This is back to your job. When the judges or you guys and your assistants and you yourself do the cases, that you don't take it on personally.
Yeah.
Because just like I said earlier, when I was first starting out, people think that, number one thing, you're white. That's a strike against you. You're the prosecuting attorney, you're the white man, and you're taking it personal. And I think my audience need to know that it's not personal. It's a job description. Can you elaborate on that? Because they need to know that you're just following what you were hired to do as a job, but once you leave outside that job, you're still a human being. Can you elaborate and share that with us?
So I started off as a public defender, and so I did public defense, and so I would represent people, and I know that they would be really frustrated with the prosecutor. Prosecutor's out to get me. They're mad at me because I did this, that, and the other thing. And I would tell people, the prosecutor, they've got about 60 cases. And they're piled up on their desk. And they probably don't know who you are.
Yes.
You're just one of 60, 70, 80 cases that they have. If it's personal, that's wrong. That's a bad way to be practicing law. That's not the way the law is supposed to be imposed. We're supposed to be objective. We're supposed to be able to be fair and apply the law evenly. it's something that I think you have to have a passion for.
Yes.
Every person who works in the prosecutor's office, I can guarantee you they can make more money somewhere else. But they're committed to serving the public. They're part of this community. I'm a part of this community. This is where I grew up. This is where my wife grew up. This is my home.
Yes.
And so I care about the people that are here. I care about our community. And that means sometimes I got to do my job. One of the cases that stands out in my mind wasn't a case that I personally handled, but it was a case that my office prosecuted. It was a guy that I grew up with.
Oh.
You know, and it was a guy that I had known when we were five years old.
Yes.
Living in the neighborhood. And his life, it went the wrong way. I have to be able to prosecute him, somebody that I know, just as effectively as somebody that I don't know.
I bet that was pretty tough.
It was.
Excuse me.
And you know, what I did was I kept away from the case and let one of our deputy prosecutors handle it. And eventually, guy pled guilty, and I went into court after he pled guilty. And in court, and when you're in custody, they've got this chain, and people are chained together, the inmates. And I went to his attorney. I said, "Do you mind if I go over and talk to your client?" And he said, "That's fine." And I went over and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he looked at me and he says, "Do I know you?" And I said, "It's Chad." And the first thing he said was, "How's your mom doing?"
Oh my goodness.
And so that meant something to me because he knew it's not personal. Sorry, you're going back to prison.
Yes.
But you're still a human being. You're still a person. I still have hope and faith that you're going to turn your life around. Things are going to be better. But you owe the community something, and you're going off to prison.
Well, and you know what? I think he respected you for that. And first, he was glad to see you, and that you recognized him, and that made him feel good, and that you showed him the respect.
You have to show respect to. I think you have to show respect to everybody who's in the criminal justice system, because I don't know what got somebody there.
Correct.
Now, there are some people that I'm not going to treat with as much respect as others.
Yeah.
You murder someone, you're going to get treated a little bit differently.
Correct.
But you can't treat everybody like they're a murderer.
Yes.
There are people who have done dumb things or made mistakes, who are sorry about what they did, and you have to be able to recognize that and give people second chances sometimes. That's a lot of what we do here is second chances. One of the first things I did when I got elected was I went to our Shelton prison.
Oh, yeah.
And I went and I met with a group of inmates called the Black Prisoners Caucus. And so this is an organization that's been around for, gosh, I think 50 years. I think it started maybe in the 60s
I think
or
for
70s.
decades they've been around.
They've been around for a long time. And so I went and I met with them and asked them, you know, what changed in your life? What got you here? And one of the things that they said was, my life turned when I got my first felony conviction.
Yeah.
Because once I got that, all these doors closed to me. I needed drug treatment. I couldn't get in because I had a felony conviction. I needed housing. I couldn't get housing because I had a felony conviction. I needed education. I couldn't get education because I had a felony conviction. So one of the first things we did was we put together programs called pretrial agreed continuance, where for those first-time offenders who, low-level crimes, we're not talking about sex offenses or violent offenses, but you know, your low-level cases, if you pay restitution and you stay out of trouble for a year, we'll take that, we'll dismiss our case.
Yes.
You're not going to get that first conviction. And I think it's been pretty successful because a lot of the people that have gone through that, we've not seen back. Yeah, there are some.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they got that second chance, they got that opportunity, they paid restitution, they got themselves into a treatment program if they needed a treatment program, and they've been able to turn their life around and not get that felony conviction or that criminal conviction that closed all those doors to them. So second chances are an important part of what we do.
Yeah, I'm really glad for my viewers, and we're going to wrap this up. But I'm really glad that my viewers got to hear that from you because they needed to know this. And there's more because I'm going to have you on for part 2.
I would love it.
Because we can bring them awareness of what your job entails, what the court system, entails, how it operates, how it functions. And that is such needed. Instead of always having these meetings and just the leaders know, the community needs to know. They need to know how they can get up out of this rut. But we're going to say thank you to our viewers for viewing in. And we're going to have Mr. Chad Enright, our District Attorney of Kitsap County, back again for part 2. I want to say thank you for coming on the show. I love you. I mean, you're a great guy. You're doing a damn awesome job over there. Once again, thank you, Mr. Chad Enright, for being on Real Talk with DMJ. Thank you.
Thank you.